What's up guys, it's Paraly5er here, and today we're going to be doing an updated Mantis guide in Grounded. Now the reason for this is my old Mantis guide is very out of date now, and I thought that we might as well make a new one, show off a couple of builds that I recommend for taking on the Mantis nowadays. Now the Mantis, pretty straightforward fight. Obviously not going to be using anything you would get later in the game. The only prerequisites to this boss is that you need to beat the Broodmother to be able to craft the kebab, so I have allowed myself Broodmother items. Let's go ahead and get the first build here. So we have the Marksman Cap level 9 Sleek. I went for level 9 because you can get level 9 stuff by this point in the game, and Sleek means you do more bow damage. I've gone for a bulky moth chestplate and leggings. If you don't want to collect all of this stuff, you think it's too difficult to get, you can just use Ladybug armor. It really does not make a huge difference what armor you use. We're going to use Thor's Pendant. You don't need the Fire Ant Shield, but I am going to use it. We've got a Spider Slider. We've got a couple of healing items here, bandages and Hedgelord. Don't use Hedgelord, just use Slop. The only reason I've used Hedgelord is because I can't craft Slop in a custom world. And you obviously need the Mantis Kebab. We're going to use Salt Arrows for this build. This is probably the easiest way to beat the Mantis. We have Sharpshooter, Coup de Grace Stage 2, Cardio Fan, Trapper-Peeper, and Mysterious Stranger. I know a lot of you won't have Trapper-Peeper by this point in the game. You could run Shocking Dismissal, maybe. You could run Buff Lungs, Meat Shield. Either of those would be alright. There's not too many mutations that help with the bows. Even the Sharpshooter mutation isn't very good. It just reduces the stamina you use when running. So let's go into the settings here. We'll turn on player damage. And this method is a little bit of a boring one compared to the second method that I'm going to show you after this. This method's kind of the easy, boring method. So you pop your heals, you get the fight going, and we wait for the Mantis to drop down. So all this involves is you shoot it and you run. And you wait for your crossbow debuff in the bottom left to wear off every time so that you're not doing reduced damage, and this fight isn't going to take very long. The screams are going to be annoying. There's nothing you can do about the scream. You just kind of have to accept it. You get your debuff and you move on with your life. The Mantis will try to jump at you. It has a bunch of different attacks, but ultimately it's not going to be able to touch you as long as you play relatively safe and keep your distance. There's absolutely no danger here whatsoever. You're just going to keep shooting it, keep running away. Try to aim for the eyes. The eyes are a weak point on the Mantis. They should be quite big. You should be able to hit them if you're decent at the game. But yeah, you just keep running away, keep shooting, and this is a very easy method for beating the boss, obviously. Now, I know a lot of you don't like ranged. Personally, I've spoken in the past about not being a fan of ranged damage in Grounded. It's not my preferred way of playing, although the Mantis is extremely broken in the game. Oh, look, the Mantis spawned. The Mantis is extremely broken in the sense that even if you parry its attacks, some of its attacks aren't parryable, but sometimes even if you do, you still get debuffs like bleed effects, which are really strong and really annoying. So if you want to avoid those, the best way to do it is just not to get hit in the first place, which I just did. That attack can be quite dangerous, but as usual, just hold down your block button. You'll notice I'm not even using the shield. The shield is just in case the Mantis gets too close to you, and you need to make sure that you can parry or block attacks. That's what that is for. But you can see this fight very easy using this build. I haven't had to worry about anything. I'm taking a bit of damage from bleed right now from that one attack that I did take, so we're just going to heal up. And yeah, keep the distance from the Mantis, making sure it doesn't get any damage onto us. And you can see here, I can't remember exactly how many salty arrows we started with. I think it was about 180, but 35-ish arrows later, and we are able to take down the Mantis very easily. You could also use a regular feather arrow intermittently here, which will give the bleed effect to the Mantis, which is quite good. But as you can see, very easy, medium difficulty, Mantis gets obliterated, wasn't even a challenge. But now, for those of you that actually want to enjoy your life, I'm going to show you a melee build. So we're going to use the Mask of the Mother Demon level 9 Sleek. This gives Poison Coating and Venom Coating to apply a couple of debuffs. We're going to run the Ladybug Chestplate and Leggings. This is for increased healing. We're going to run the Termite Axe Salty. This is because the Mantis is weak to salt and is resistant to all damage types except generic. And chopping, it's only 25% resistant. And we all know that chopping is extremely good damage type because of the chopper mutation, which reduces the enemy's resistance to chopping damage. We're also using Coup de Grace, we're using Cardio Fan, Mysterious Stranger, and Shocking Dismissal. I didn't use Trapper-Peeper here because I thought most people won't have it. I used it on the other build purely because I know that although most people won't have it, there's not really any other mutations that are useful. So yeah, very, very simple build, this one. Yet again, we're going to do it melee this time, but this time I'll do it on Woe, just to show you that this is very much worth using. I think I had players ignore bugs on the first fight, but it doesn't really make a difference when it comes to bosses. They will attack you regardless. So you'll see here, this should be very, very similar. It's actually going to be a bit more dangerous, but there is a key here. And the key is just going to hold down the left trigger. You're not even going to attempt to parry. You're just going to hold down, because it doesn't matter if you parry or not. You're still going to take damage. You can see I have a bleed debuff despite parrying multiple attacks. Can't even block the scream. I don't even know why I tried. Completely pointless. Now, you could make the argument that you won't have this trinket at this point in the game. We're just going to hold down the shield. Yeah. As you can see, stamina is the main factor here that we need to worry about. But yeah, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you do actually have this trinket by this point in the game. It's the shield solidifier. It's inside of the Brawny Boy bin. You could make the argument you won't have it by this point, but you should have it before you beat the Mantis, really. Now you can see here, taking a lot of damage because we are on Woe, not dealing a lot of damage. And that is because of the debuff that we have that is reducing our damage output, which is really annoying. But yeah, as you can see here, just hold down the shield. We're taking a lot of damage. Now the difference between this method and the other method is 1, we're on Woe. And 2, the other method, I can't do anything about these debuffs. This is why you don't fight the Mantis with a melee build. But the other method is going to cost you a lot of salt. Whereas this method is going to cost you a lot of heals. Because a lot of these attacks, as you can see, I can't do anything about. They are really, really annoying. I'm trying to run a melee build, but it simply doesn't matter. I have about 17 different debuffs, most of which are really, really, really powerful. And this is why just a melee build is not a good idea. But if you do like running a melee build, this is probably your best bet. It's just because the chopping damage from Chopper, it reduces your enemy's resistance, and it makes it doable, but not a fun experience whatsoever. I really would recommend the ranged build I showed you to begin with, to be honest. This build is, yeah, if you're a melee guy, then I guess go with this build, but I wouldn't recommend it. But these are both builds for taking on the Mantis the first time, of course, rather than taking on the Mantis. If you were taking it on later in the game, I would highly recommend you use Assassin armor, or at least one piece of Assassin armor for the crit bleed. I would maybe recommend using a Widow Dagger, honestly, with like some Assassin for just a bunch of bleed effects. Similar to the build I showed the other day for going around the yard. That build is very, very good for just going around the yard in general, but it would be a good build for the Mantis. For all the bleed and poison and venom stacks, it would be very, very useful. You'll see I took a lot of damage and I used a lot of smoothies during this fight, but at the end of the day, I was able to kill it using melee instead of ranged. So if you're looking for something that is much cheaper, in the sense that you're not going to have to craft a bunch of salt arrows, but instead you're going to have to craft a bunch of smoothies, then this is the way to go. Those are the two updated builds for beating the Mantis. I would probably say using ranged weapons is definitely the most efficient way to go in terms of not taking damage. It's the safest route to take. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you think you have another build that is really, really good, let me know. And I'll see you in the next grounded video. Have a great rest of your day.